If you clicked on this video, you're a massive Chad, and you want to learn how to play Gunlancer in Chaos Dungeons. Well, you've come to the right place because Gunlancer has an insane amount of AoE damage as well as an awesome amount of debuff potential. So in this video, we're going to be covering what abilities you should be using, how you should be building those abilities, and how we play this build in an actual Chaos Dungeon. So let's get right off into it and start off with the abilities. So the first ability we're going to be taking is Sharp Gunlance. This is because in a Chaos Dungeon environment, it's really important to pull the mobs close to you so you can do as much damage as possible. The way we would be doing this is building the tripods as follows. You want to use giant wheels so you have a 360 AoE attack. Then you want to do Unexpected Pull, which will bring the enemies towards you instead of away from you. Lastly, we want to go with Pummel. The reason we go with Pummel is because it changes the attack into a combo attack, allowing us to use it twice. And it's important to note for this that both attacks in the combo do 360 as well as a pull. So it's pretty underrated, but I actually really like it. Next up, we're going to go 3 tripods deep into Surge Cannon, one of my favorite all-time abilities on Gunlancer. Essentially, somehow changing your Gunlance into a flame-throwing bombardment machine, annihilating anything in your path. The first tripod we go on this beast of ability is Scattershot. The first thing Scattershot does is stop the knockback on enemies, and this is huge for Chaos Dungeons because you want to keep the mobs as close as possible to you so you can do the most efficient amount of big damage. It also makes the ability into a cone ability, increasing the range that you can hit targets with. Next up is Overcharge, and because I'm bad at this game, this ability is really nice because it removes that perfect success window from the ability. In Chaos Dungeons, especially when you have buffs or attack speed buffs from those red crystals, the charge time changes too, so it always messes me up, and this is a huge change because you don't have to worry about that anymore. And then lastly, we have Rotating Barrage, which effectively makes your Gunlancer join FaZe Clan and 360 no-scope all the mobs. This ability synergizes really well with Sharp Gunlance because once those enemies are all around you, you can just burst them down so quickly. Next up, we want to take Shield Bash. This is our Humpty Dumpty skull-cracking big debuff ability. For Shield Bash, we want to use Armor Destruction, which lowers the defense of our targets for 12% for 8 seconds. It also gives you a teeny bit of movement, so if your target is just a little bit away from you, you can close that gap with this ability. Next up, we have Leap Attack, where Gunlancer steals some Air Jordans and he's able to do some insane leaps for damage. This is a great ability because it's one of Gunlancer's few movement abilities that still do an insane amount of damage. For this, we would also go 3 tripods and we'd go Direct Hit and Electric Field to increase our damage, and then Low Shock so then we get an additional jump, which helps us with our movement significantly. Next up, we have Guardian's Thunderbolt, which summons the power of Thor and Zeus combined to disintegrate anything in your path, but only if you use debuffs first. So this one we also go 3 tripods. You want to go Damage Luck and Tough Strike to increase the damage, and then you want to go Lightning Stalk, which essentially makes your damage go in a cross-like motion, giving you way more AoE damage. After that, you want to go Shield Charge, and I can't really take any credit for this one because I initially wasn't going to be using Shield Charge, but I was watching Greedy's video, and if you guys don't know who Greedy is, he's an extremely skilled veteran Gunlancer, and he suggested using Shield Charge with no tripods purely for movement, and it works out so well. So I highly recommend it, and I'll also put Greedy's channel in the description so if you guys want to take a look at that because he has some amazing content. And then of course we have our signature ability for Gunlancer, which is Shout of Hatred. This is our taunt ability that also somehow hits with the force of a freight truck. It's really powerful because it interrupts the abilities of the mobs and bosses too. I don't think it even needs to be said that we're going 3 tripods on this, but we would go Wide Hit so that we increase the range of our taunt. Law of the Jungle, because this increases the damage we do to regular mobs by 200%. Normally we go Shield and like Guardian Raids and stuff like that so we can protect ourselves, but since Chaos Dungeons are really about outputting as much damage as possible, this is something we cannot pass up on. Lastly, you want to go Open Weakness, which your teammates will love you for because it increases the damage of you and your team as well as giving your shield charge 20%. Lastly, I go Shield Shock. I really like this ability as a debuff. A lot of people don't use it, but I like it because of its range. If you're in that 250 skill point range, you probably only want to go Armor Destruction. However, if you have more, I highly recommend going Wide Hit because it increases the range so much more. However, what no one will ever tell you is that to increase the damage of Shield Shock, you can hit the subscribe button, which will instantly help you carry your team harder. Okay, so this is pretty much the build I use in Chaos Dungeons. However, I've seen people use different things, so I wanted to mention some alternatives in case you guys wanted to try a different kind of playstyle. If you're at the 270 skill point mark, I see a lot of people go bash instead of shield shock, and the reason for this is you can still use armor destruction as the first tripod just like in shield shock, but people really like the second tripod, which is ready attack. Ready attack basically gives you a 25% increase to your attack power for 5 seconds. I like shield shock because it debuffs more enemies because it's an AoE attack. Meanwhile, bash doesn't really hit anything other than what's in front of you. However, the ready attack kind of makes up for that damage. I'm not sure which one does more, but it's really up to your preference on how you want to do that. Next up is hook chain, which I also saw in Greedy's build, which basically is another form of pull outside of sharp gunlance, which can be extremely useful if you do a lot of damage in Chaos Dungeons, because then you'll need to pull more mobs to you so then you can kill them faster. So if that's the case for you and you're doing a bunch of damage, then this is perfectly fine. I'm still not at that point, so I've been using a lot more debuffs instead. And then lastly, I've seen people opt for charge stinger as well, which I can see. However, I don't really like it because I prefer more AoE style abilities. However, if you do get on a boss level, you are kind of in a better situation with charge stinger because of that single target burst damage that you can just kill that boss really quickly with. So yeah, whatever suits your playstyle, you can kind of mix and match. I think it's really just about doing the most amount of damage possible, and how many skill points you have also plays a big factor into that. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's go on to how you actually play a Gunlancer in the Chaos Dungeons with these abilities. So before I say anything, I really want to stress that especially in Chaos Dungeons where there's so many things happening, there's no set rotation for this. I'm just going to talk about what each set of abilities do and when you should use them in certain situations. So in my head, I basically do pull, debuff, damage, movement. So in order to pull, you want to use Sharp Gunlance. So like I said, Sharp Gunlance has the AoE as well as the pull, so you'll bring the targets in. Once you've pulled them in, you want to use some kind of debuff. So this is either going to be Shield Shock or Shield Bash. Important to understand that the debuff is the same on Shield Shock and Shield Bash, so you cannot overlap them. However, if you're killing the mobs fast enough, you want to refresh with the ability that you haven't used yet. Once you've pulled and debuffed them, that's when you want to use your main damaging ability. So this would be Guardian's Thunder, Surge Cannon, Shout of Hatred. Leap Attack I used last, even though it does do a lot of damage, because it's also movement, which helps me go from pack to pack. And then if I still need to go even further, then I'll use Shield Charge. In terms of your Awakening ability, I still use Guardian's Protection. However, I barely use it in Chaos Dungeons as I rarely feel the need to, and I don't want to waste my charges in Chaos Dungeons. But it does increase your speed, so if you have a lot of charges, you can go ahead and use them. I'm just really stingy. So that's pretty much all I've got in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, and I hope this was valuable. If you did, I'll be posting more content, so if you guys subscribe, that'd be super awesome. I'll catch you guys next time. Peace!